Get started?
Yeah, I think so. I think instead it's rather err on the side of having extra time.
Yeah, it's not a very long presentation either, but good afternoon to all of you. My name is Cecilia Torres. I'm a program coordinator at Blue Action Fund. I'm saying hello to all of you right now from Berlin, Germany. So first and foremost, thank you to the organizers of this very exciting event for the opportunity to say a few words. More than a real thematic presentation, what I want to share with you today is a little bit more of an announcement, a timely one, which hopefully could be of interest to many of you Western Indian Ocean experts as it relates to a current opportunity for funding. So over the next couple of minutes, I will walk you through a quick presentation about who we are, Blue Action, and about this specific call for proposals. Let's see. Okay. The Blue Action Fund is a relatively new independent foundation. We were only established in 2017 under German law, and we're based in Berlin. We are financed by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, in conjunction with the KfW Development Bank, as well as the Swedish Ministry for Foreign Affairs and the French Agence Française de Développement. As of 2020, we also receive financing from the Green Climate Fund, which I will tell you a little bit more about in a minute. Our aim is to enhance the management and use of coastal and marine ecosystems, to conserve marine biodiversity while improving the lives of local communities, thereby contributing to SDG 14 of the 2030 Development Agenda and to Aichi Target 11 of the Convention on Biological Diversity. We approach this objective by providing financial support to NGOs who are working in developing countries to promote the establishment and the improved management of marine protected areas. We work exclusively through calls for proposals, and these are traditionally focused on a specific region of the world. We work primarily, but not exclusively, with large NGOs, and that's because given the public source of funding, we do have a significant amount of paperwork and internal capacity requirements. However, most projects bring together a consortium of local and regional partners, which often includes multiple small local NGOs and civil society and universities, etc. Also important is that all projects have to be in line with national and regional policies, and they have to be endorsed by the relevant national authorities. And again, as I mentioned before, we support only projects that do both establishment or improvement of MPAs and which support sustainable livelihoods. At present, we have 16 ongoing projects that are pretty spread out over the Eastern Tropical Pacific, Eastern and Western Africa, and Asia Pacific. Among those are 6 projects in the Western Indian Ocean at the moment. We are also concurrently in the process of finalizing agreements for projects from the first call of proposals focused on ecosystem-based adaptation to climate change in the Western Indian Ocean, which again, I'll tell you a bit more in a minute. And we are also concurrently in the process of reviewing concept notes from our most recent call, which was focused on the Atlantic coast of Africa. So as I mentioned, we have also received financing from the Green Climate Fund, 30 million euros, which is complemented by an additional 25 million euros of co-financing from the BMZ to focus explicitly on ecosystem-based adaptation to climate change in the Western Indian Ocean. I'll say EBA for short in the remaining of the presentation. We held a first call for this program in 2020. The call was focused geographically on 4 countries, Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, and Madagascar. During that first call, we received 21 concept notes, which were evaluated, and a few of those were invited to submit full proposals. At the moment, 6 of those are in the final stages of revision before grant agreements are hopefully signed in the coming months. And these projects roughly amount to some 30 million euros, which means that the program now is going into its second call for proposals, which has a funding envelope of roughly 20 million, more or less. The call was launched just recently in September during the IUCN World Conservation Congress in Marseille. And the countries of implementation of this second call are the same as in the first. So that's to say Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, and Madagascar. The deadline for submission of concept notes is December 10th of this year. A little bit more about the call. This EBA funded program is focused on three central goals, if you will. The first of them is the protection and sustainable management of coastal ecosystems, which are particularly relevant for climate change adaptation. So that's measures such as, for example, improved management of protected or locally managed areas, or measures to reduce physical damage or pressure or land-based stressors to coastal and marine ecosystems. That's sort of the first pillar. The second one is the rehabilitation of degraded coastal ecosystems, again, those which are particularly relevant to climate change adaptation, with measures, for example, such as the restoration of mangroves or coral reefs, or the rehabilitation of seagrasses and beach vegetation. And thirdly, the third pillar is the enhancement of knowledge, expertise, and capacity of the relevant national agencies to use EBA approaches for climate resilient coastal zone management. And that's through activities such as awareness raising, capacity building, experience exchanges, and lessons learned from the practical implementation. So basically, projects are expected to work in close coordination with the national authorities so that the best practices can be fed back into national policy development and can be integrated into future national adaptation plans. So that's a little bit about the thematic direction of the call. In terms of who we fund, it is expected that this work will be financing work by NGOs who have proven experience on the ground and in the countries of implementation, not only in coastal and marine conservation, but also on the livelihood development side. NGOs who can provide match funding, including in-kind contributions of 25% in the case of Mozambique and South Africa, and 10% in the case of Madagascar and Tanzania. And finally, who have experience implementing projects of this scale. And again, I say NGOs, but I'm referring to a consortium in many cases. As for the projects that we are inviting to be submitted, they should ask for a Blue Action contribution of somewhere between 2 and 5 million euros. They must be able to be completed in 3 to 4 years. They have to have a minimum target of 5,000 direct beneficiaries and address an area of 1,000 kilometers squared of protected areas, either planned new MPAs or existing ones. It is expected that the projects must make a significant contribution to ecosystem-based adaptation in terms of the objectives that I mentioned in the previous slide. And they are expected to be in line with the national and regional policies, including climate change policies and priorities, in particular the nationally determined contributions and the national adaptation strategies. And with that, I just will wrap it up by inviting you to learn more about the call on our website, where you can also find grant procedures manual and more information about what's expected of these projects. And of course, if you have more specific questions about the call or about the eligibility of your organization or a project concept that you have in mind, then we invite you to get in touch through the email address here, or I can put mine directly on the chat if you have more direct questions. So with that, thank you all for your attention, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Cecilia, and hopefully people are feeling inspired to apply, and what a great opportunity. So thank you for sharing that with us, and I hope everyone benefits from going and having a look and thinking about what opportunities are available. Does anybody have any questions for Cecilia? You can raise your hand, or, well, I can't actually see very many videos right now, so raise your hand with the reaction, or you can put a question in the chat and we can ask questions that way.